Alright, so this is This Way the People News. Kadoki. This video is without prejudice and without recourse, alright? On this particular video, it's a learning video. However, I'm going to stand arm length from this video. I do not have the knowledge as well informed as this man is. So I have to kind of take a step back and reevaluate the whole situation. Don't mean he's not true and correct. It just means I have to step back and check it out. And y'all, I particularly just never look straight forward. I always look around me to be able to protect myself by any means necessary. This may or may not hurt me, so I want to check every options I have and have no rocks unturned, right? Because there may be incidents I may need something, and knowledge is power. Let's go.
Get a certified copy of the title you want to authenticate, so you're going to get a hold of Vital Check or Vital Records. Get the birth certificate, authenticate it on the state and federal level, all right? You're also going to do a birth announcement in the paper. If financial wherewithal becomes an issue and you don't have the funds to publish it for consecutive weeks in the paper, you can utilize a process where you have 2 or more witnesses witness you, post publicly in the post office, the Register of Deeds office, the sheriff's office. There's always a court board in these public buildings for this purpose that I'm going to mention to you. If you're less than fortunate enough to have Federal Reserve notes or whatever it takes to publish in the paper, you can go ahead and publish this in the post office for 31 days or 61 days and claim it that way, giving your public announcement and then recording it on public record, okay? It must be a certified copy only. Do not get just a copy. You need a certified copy from Vital Records. If this is your certificate of live birth, birth certificate, which is a certificate of title, bill of lading, a warehouse receipt, if you will, you can get a certified copy of this from your Vital Records office. You will have to Google this to see if your city or town has a local Vital Records office. I know in Phoenix, Arizona, they're all over the fucking place, all right? If they don't, then you can order a certified copy from http://www.vitalcheck.com. I've used them in the past. They work. And you can also talk to your county recorder's office to see if they have any abstract, write this down, abstract birth filing record, okay? Whether it was left at the hospital or given to the county, go look for the abstract filing of birth. This is something that nobody really talks about. I know of it only because I read a fuck ton, but it does exist, all right? And if you get told no at the county level, maybe go over to the hospital and ask them for the abstract filing of the birth, which has all of the pertinent information as to the birthing of your offspring, okay? Make sure he has his discipline collar on, please. Thank you very much. And he gets a beep before he gets zapped, all right? We whack him before we pack him. All right. Step 2, the first authentication you will need to get is at the state level, all right? And so you'll do that at the Secretary of State's office where they're going to authenticate. And ladies and gentlemen, all they're authenticating, okay, let me be very clear about this, is signatures. They're not authenticating the information on the document, okay? That's for you to go through and verify and make sure that everything's correct and make sure the names are spelled properly and all that stuff. If there needs to be an amendment made prior to you authenticating, then I suggest you make that amendment properly and timely before you authenticate. You don't want to authenticate a record that is not true, correct, and accurate. This is usually done at the state capitol in the Secretary of State's office. Do a Google search to find the website for your state Secretary of State. If you live close by, you can drive to their office to request an authentication for your title. If this is for your certificate of live birth or certificate, this must be done in or mailed to the state that you were born in, okay? So, for example, if you're in Indiana, you were born in Ohio, you can't go to the Indiana Secretary of State. They will not authenticate it. You must go back to Ohio, okay? And you can do it via the mail. If you do not live close by, you can mail your certificate of title, certified mail. Always do things certified mail or registered mail. Registered mail is going to be chain of title, approved chain of custody, and It's also insurable. Certified mail is you're going to be using the 3811 green return receipt with a 3800 mail form to keep track of everything, and you're going to make sure that anybody that receives that certified mail signs for it, okay? And that's your evidence that they received it and that they have precious cargo that you have mailed to them. And include a prepaid big envelope for return delivery, so once your title has been authenticated, they can send it back to you. Otherwise, you won't get your title back. You must include a prepaid envelope. This is very important. It's a step that many people miss, a prepaid envelope. And I would also advise that one, make an affidavit as to your purpose for authenticating such document. And you may refer to UCC 9102 and look up authentication. The definition is to adopt said record. I'm here to adopt said record. This is my purpose and point for doing so. I need this authenticated. Thank you very much for your time. I seek to authenticate this for use outside of this country. Remember, the Republic is not the same. The United States and the U.S. are not the same as the United States of America. They are different, okay? And you may get some blowback if you say, I want to authenticate this for the United States of America. The ignorant masses that work at the Secretary of State's office may say, you're in the United States of America. No. All right, there's a difference between state of Nebraska and Nebraska, the Republic. They're very distinguished, they're very defined, and they are different, okay? So I have friends that have authenticated their birth certificates for the United States of America, and they actually have authentications, not apostilles, which is super fucking badass, all right? They didn't go to Taiwan, they didn't go to fucking Puerto Vallarta or Canada. They said, look, I want this authenticated for the United States of America, the Republic. It's different. It's outside the alleged country known as the United States, which by definition is a corporation, all right? Check your Secretary of State SOS website to see if they require a cover letter or request for authentication form, okay? So you're going to want to look. Some of them have authentication forms that you can fill out that make it just super easy for the mindless fucking dummies behind the counter that are really civil servants that don't have an oath of office, ladies and gentlemen, so you can't be threatening these people saying, you do what I say or you're violating your oath. Some of these people are just nothing more than civil fucking servants, okay? They or civil employees, excuse me. They're civilian employees. They don't actually fill an office, okay? If so, it will be provided on their website. Just print it out, fill it out, and paperclip it to your title. If they do not require a cover letter or provide a request form, you must create your own to explain why you are requesting the authentication. Again, I revert back to UCC 9102. Authentication means to adopt a record, okay? To ensure you get the Great Seal authenticated and not the lesser apostille, you must check the box for or state that this authentication request is for travel purposes to a non-Hague Convention member country. For example, Taiwan is a non-Hague country. Again, the United States of America is not the same as United States or U.S., okay? If you have any questions on your state authentication process, you can have any question answered simply by going to the Secretary of State's website or calling their office. Once you get your authentication back in the mail or hand back to you, if you went down there to their office in person, you are now ready for step 3. Step 3, note there is a small fee for authentication, but usually only about $5 to $10, so make sure you send a money order for the correct amount, which you can find out on your Secretary of State's website or calling them. It's important to get this correct, ladies and gentlemen. I once sent out, I was helping a number of people do this. I sent out the wrong amount for the money orders, and they returned every last one of them back. It was a painstaking, time-consuming son of a bitch, and it pissed me off. Make sure that you call them, contact them, and find out exactly what the fucking fee is. And it doesn't hurt to authenticate multiple certificates, okay? So get 5 for Johnny, get 5 for Susie, get 5 for yourself, and send them all out at the same time, all right? Use different envelopes for Susie, Johnny, and yourself. That way people don't get confused about what the fuck you're really doing. And don't forget to use a prepaid self-stamped envelope, pre-addressed, to get your documentation sent back to you. Do not count on them to create a envelope to send your documents back to you if you opt to mail this stuff in, okay? Step 3. Now you're ready for your second authentication, which will be done at the federal level. This is where you're going to see that you're going to get your full faith and credit of the United States issued on said instrument, which makes that instrument legal evidence that is accepted in all courts, state, county, federal, district, don't give a shit what it is, all the way up to the Supreme Court. When it is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, it is admissible in all courts, but I'm going to teach you a little trick. You don't actually use the document that you got authenticated. You make a certified copy of the authenticated document, because they will keep your authenticated documents, ladies and gentlemen, because they are valuable. Don't make the mistake of submitting them to a court and thinking that you're going to get them back. You will not. Later on, I'll explain to you how you can make a certified copy of the authenticated originals that you received. And without further ado, it is an absolute requisite and a must to keep your fucking receipts on everything you do, because the receipt is evidence of title, okay? Your receipt should have your name on it. You can write on it for whatever you did. If you pay with a card, they're going to have your card information is already going to be on there. Your name's already going to be on there. Keep the fucking receipt. I can't explain to you how important receipts are. Do not discard the receipt, especially if you're going to make a true and accurate certified copy of the authenticated document itself that you wish to utilize in a court of record. All right. Just like step 2, only this time you will be sending your authenticated title to the Department of State. It used to be John Fuckhead Kerry. I don't think he's there anymore. Maybe we've gotten lucky and they whacked his traitorous ass, but more than likely they haven't. But just the same, it's not John Kerry anymore. You're going to have to look it up for your second authentication. For everyone in America, this will go mailed. This will get mailed to Office of Authentication, U.S. Department of State, CAPPT STO AUT 44132, Mercury CIR PO Box 1206 Sterling, VA. That's Virginia, 2166 1206. Now, I would really check that, because I don't like using P.O. boxes, all right? I actually use a mail courier. And so we look down in Washington, D.C., we find us a mail courier, and we have a mail courier take it in to the Office of Authentication, U.S. Department of State. It'll typically run you anywhere from $100 to $120 to have them do that for you. The nice thing about that is, if you make sure to send them a return envelope, pre-addressed, with stamps on it, they will get that back to you expedited, which is really cool. Used to have a friend that lived down there. He could get this done in as little as 72 hours, which was super badass back in the day. He's no longer currently there, so please do not contact me saying I'd like to use your courier, because I do not have contact with him at this point, and I don't believe that he's located in Washington, D.C. any longer. So, with that said, make sure to find your own courier. I would not trust this address. And their website is travelstate.gov. There it is. I'm not going to read it all. I'm losing my voice. Or you can contact the DOS, Department of State, at the phone number 202-485-8000. This does require a request for authentication form to be filled out. You go online, you simply fill out the request for authentication. And it's going to mimic or mirror the same thing that you used for the Secretary of State in the state that you were born in. At the bottom of the form is an empty box. Write this space while you are requesting this authentication. Again, if you want the Great Seal, you must check the box, or write it for travel purposes to a non-Hague Convention member country. Or another example would be for travel purposes to a foreign jurisdiction of Taiwan. Either are acceptable. The Department of State Authentication Request Form can be viewed and edited online at this link here, all right, the eformstate.gov, all right, or printed, okay? And the authentication fee, this was from 2017, ladies and gentlemen, so it may have changed. Inflation, you know, what a bitch. This can also be confirmed by viewing the Department of State website, link above, or calling their office. This fee can be paid by cash, check, or credit card. Again, this information was from 2017. You may want to go review their website and make sure it's still done this way. They have a knack for changing shit as people start to learn it, all right? Note, make sure you include a prepaid big envelope so they can send you back your authenticated title or you will not get it back. This cannot be stressed fucking enough, all right? Once you get your authenticated title back, proceed to step 4. Having an affidavit to state the facts is an accepted and lawful practice. This is especially necessary if the title you are having authenticated was your certificate of live birth certificate as per Rule 220, which is out of Minnesota, which you can view here. All right, and this website again may have changed. Simply create an affidavit to the state to state the facts. If you are not sure how to do this, we offer an affidavit template. I'm not giving that affidavit template. I don't even know if this website is still up. Again, you create your own affidavit. It's really not that hard. You want to make sure that when you do an affidavit that you're doing it under Draught. I like using Title 28, 1746, I believe it is. Which is under the pains and penalties, under the laws of the United States of America, all right, under the pains and penalties of perjury. Let's just pull it up here real quick so we can make sure that we're doing this right. I think it is Title 28, if my memory serves me right, 1746, maybe. Let's see what happens. Yep, there it is. All right, memory's still good. A little faded and fatigued from being ill, but just the same. This is something that was really important to me that showed me that there are 2 different jurisdictions. And if there weren't 2 different jurisdictions, then why the fuck would they have this, all right? If executed without the United States, I declare, certify, verify, or state. I always just take out the or the parentheses or whatever, and I leave the commas in there. But remember, to declare something, a declaration is to lie by omission. So maybe you want to verify, maybe you just want to state, maybe you just want to certify. It's up to you. Under the penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States of America. Wow, that's fucking pretty. That the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on the date, and then, of course, the signature, all right? Now, here's the other one. Just pay attention. If executed within the United States, the District of Columbia, the federal enclaves and territories, Guam, Samoa, the Sumerian Islands, whatever else they fucking have laid siege to and claim by military occupation, all right? If you want to be defined by that, then this is for you. If executed within the United States, its territories, possessions, or commonwealths, I declare, certify, or verify, state, under the penalty of perjury, that the foregoing is true, correct, executed on such and such date. So again, this is within the United States, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, and the band of fucking thieves and thugs. Or let's say you have some fucking balls, some cojones, and you understand what the Republic is, and you're all excited about the laws of the United States of fucking America. All right? Choice is yours. That, again, is in Title 28, U.S. Code 1746. All right? So, with that said, let's get back to this. Affidavit of an affiant who states that he or she, your name here, is familiar with the facts recited. The party name is in said birth certificate is the same party as one of the owners named in said certificate of title, and that thereafter the registrar of titles shall treat said registered owner as having attained the age of majority at a date 18 years after the date of the birth shown by said certificate as per Rule 220. Rule 220 is out of Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen. Rule 220 goes into a number of different things where when you do your Rule 220 and you're going to do your assumed business name, Rule 220 in Minnesota is the only place where you can drag in a file as you fill out the information for the assumed business name, and that file can be your authenticated birth certificate, which is pretty fucking cool. All right, there's more to that in Rule 220. There's Rule 333. Take note of the 3 3s in there, ironically, Masonic symbolism and all that horse shit. But Rule 333 in Minnesota also pertains to Rule 220 and may give you some insight on why it may be beneficial after authenticating the birth certificate to do your Rule 220. All right. No, do not recite Rule 220. Simply state what it tells you to state. All right. Rule 220. Minnesota Rule 220. So again, we don't want to recite their codes or anything, but you can use the verbiage inside their code. This is the .gov site. The Register of Titles is authorized to receive for registration or memorials upon any outstanding certificate of title an official birth certificate pertaining to a registered owner named in said certificate of title showing the date of birth of said registered owner, providing there is attached to said birth certificate an affidavit of an affiant who states that he/she is familiar with the facts recited, stating that the party named in said birth certificate is the same party as one of the owners named in said certificate of title, and that thereafter the registrar of titles shall treat said registered owner as having attained the age of majority at a date 18 years after the date of birth shown on the certificate. Okay, so if we go into here and we go Minnesota Rule 333, this is all shit I've just had in my head for years and years and years and years. Filing of certificate. Ooh, was that repealed? No. Let's see if it's this one. Filing of certificate. Persons conducting or transacting any business under any designated name or style referred to in section 33301 shall, before commencing such business, file such certificate and shall publish the certificate in the manner prescribed in sections 33301. Let's go to 33301. Commercial assumed names. Subdivision certificate. No person shall hereafter carry on or conduct or transact a commercial business in this state under any designation, name, or style which does not set forth the true name of every person interested in such business, unless such person shall file in the office of the Secretary of State a certificate setting forth the name and business address under which the business is conducted or transacted, or is to be conducted or transacted, and the true name of each person conducting or transacting the same, with the address of such person. The name of the business must not include any of the following phrases or their abbreviations: corporations, incorporated, limited, chartered, professional, association, cooperative, limited partnership, limited liability company, professional limited liability company, limited liability partnership, or professional limited liability company, limited liability partnership, except to the extent that the entity filing a certificate would be authorized to use the phrase or abbreviation. The certificate shall be executed by one of the persons conducting or intending to conduct the business. The certificate shall be published after it has been filed with the Secretary of State in a qualified newspaper in the county in which the person has a principal or registered office for 2 successive issues. Subsection 2, international misrepresentation prohibited. No person shall use an assumed or fictitious name in the conduct of its business to intentionally misrepresent its geographical origin or location. So in other words, once you follow this step, the courts are no longer allowed to use that name without your express written consent. But it gets better here. Amended certificates, Secretary of State duties and fees, terms of certificates, pleadings, failures to file, penalties for violations. Anyway, if you want to get into that, that's where it's going to take you, okay? We can get into that later, but I believe it is in, it's just 333, but I don't see it here. That's 333.1.001. I don't just see 333. I'll have to look it up again. Penalties for violations. Let's see what this says. Penalty for violation. A person who violates the provisions of Section 333.01 to 333.06 is subject to the penalties and remedies provided in Section 8.31. The relief provided in this section is in addition to the remedies and penalties otherwise available. So anyway, that's what that kind of ties into. For everyone else, with any other title, your affidavit should simply state something to the effect of I, last name, comma, first name. Why last name first? Because the last name is your tribe. They came before you did. So your last name, the last name naturally comes first, which is the house of or whatever tribe you're part of. And then you came second, which would be your first and middle name, which is your Christian appellation. And familiar with the facts recited on title, my name is the same party as one of the owners named in said title, short and sweet. You know, you don't have to get fucking brilliant. You don't have to become a fucking internet lawyer or attorney and start using magnificent fucking flamboyant words to stress your point. In fact, that's more damning and dangerous than it is beneficial, all right? So just make it short, sweet, concise, to the motherfucking point. I own this shit, all right? I own it. It's mine, all right? And later on, I'll talk to you guys about license grant deeds, powers of attorney, how to manifest your estate into existence that will be recognized. This affidavit needs to be notarized, all right? When it's notarized, it needs to be made under jurat. Just simply notarizing something doesn't make it so, and a jurat doesn't necessarily make it so either, but a jurat at least will make it admissible as evidence later on if you ever need it to be so, whereas just simply having a notary seal on it is not the same as a jurat. A jurat is done under the pains and penalties of perjury. Then, of course, an affidavit is not a established fact, even if it's unrebutted. An affidavit doesn't stand as true in fact in law until it is one testifies to it or is deposed to the veracity of the facts stated within. At your local notary, which you can usually do at Wells Fargo or another bank for a fee. Make sure to pay the fee, make sure that the notary is using their logbook, and make sure that the notary has a copy of the document that you are having notarized in case you ever have to call them into a court to verify the said document that you utilize. No appointments necessary, just walk in. You will need to go do a Google search to find a local notary. There's also notaries you can find online now that will travel to you. They're a little more expensive, but they're worth their weight in gold. And I have found that the traveling notaries actually know their fucking shit for the most part. They study, they take it very seriously, and it's a wonderful thing to utilize the services of a mobile notary, okay? They keep records, they are very proficient at what they do, and they know their fucking job. Once you have your affidavit notarized, you then need to have the notary signature authenticated at the state level. Now, in some states, they do the authentication of the notary signature. In other states, there's just a certificate of good standing. So don't let this little nuance here lead you to believe that you're being cheated when the Secretary of State says, hey, we don't authenticate the notary signature. In some states, they do. In other states, they don't. I happen to be in a state where currently they just give you an authenticated, they give you a proof of their good standing, a certificate of good standing for the notary. That's always good to have allonged to your document as evidence that the one that authenticated or witnessed your signature onto the document was in good standing at the time, okay? Just like in step 2, you will need to go to your Secretary of State for your state or mail in the affidavit and handwritten cover letter that states that you would like the notary signature authenticated to show they are in good standing, and the reason why is for travel purposes to a foreign jurisdiction or Taiwan, whatever the case may be. If you want to get the greater seal and not just the lower apostille, which I recommend, remember the lower apostille is just for use within the United States, which would be Washington, D.C. District of Columbia, it's federal enclaves and little fucking occupied possessions, okay, by the military. You don't have to use Taiwan, just any country that is considered outside the Hague Convention. Now, in my studies, and some of my fellow legal scholars do not agree with my assessment, and I will give you my opinion on the subject matter. I'm going to stress the fact that it's just an opinion, but due to my studies, there are countries who have signed the Hague as non-participating members, but nevertheless, they signed onto the Hague Convention. Now, some of my legal scholar friends say, oh, Dirk, it has no bearing. They signed, but they're not participating members, so Canada doesn't count, and you can do it in Canada if you want. I typically have an issue with that. I like countries that haven't signed at all. Other people do it. They do just fine. They still get it authenticated. Great. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. But I don't know what the ramifications are, legally speaking, being that they, although they're non-participating members, they are still signing members onto the Hague. Okay? I don't know what the ramifications are of that. I just noticed that it is a discrepancy to me, and it's just my opinion. Take that for what it's worth. If you do an amount of research or due diligence on it and you find that there's some validity into me erring on the side of caution with that, stick it in the comments below. I'd love to see your guys' research and what you've come to conclude from that information. And it's not lying if you and your own head plan on making plans to go there. All right, so if you're planning on going there and it doesn't work out, it's not a lie. All right, you can always decide you don't want to go there later, or if you wish, you have the right to change your mind. All right, we are not telling you to lie, just sharing information so you know what you will get if you intend to go to a country outside of the Hague Convention, rather than once inside the Hague Convention, the choice is yours. If you are mailing your affidavit for authentication to the Secretary of State, as before, you will need to include a prepaid big envelope, once again, money order for exact fee, and don't forget to include your cover letter with the reason why you are requesting the authentication, which would be for travel purposes to a foreign jurisdiction, something like Taiwan. Maybe you want to go to fucking Mars. I mean, Elon Musk isn't far from taking us all to fucking Mars. So maybe we can say Dido, 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 Nino, 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 and tell them we want to go to fucking Mars, so authenticate the son of a bitch. I don't know. May work for you, may not. But, you know, maybe Martians have already signed on to the Hague and you're fucked. You might want to look into that. Anyway, all jokes aside, foreign jurisdiction of Taiwan, if that is what your plan is, once you have gotten your authenticated affidavit back from the Secretary of State, proceed to step 5. Step 5, when you're double authenticated at the state and federal level, and authenticated affidavit in hand, you are almost ready to go to your local county recorder's office or mail copies to your county recorder's office to be recorded on the public record. The other document you need are listed below. So, that's the authentication of the birth certificate. Now we want to do the birth announcement. The birth announcement is where you're going to do an announcement of your offspring being brought into or placed on this earth. Remember, we're not supposed to be of the world. We're supposed to be on earth as a sojourner. We're only here but a day. When they talk in the Bible, biblically speaking, the earth was made in 7 days, but for every 1 day on earth was 1,000 years in heaven, right? So when we look at that, I'm only here for but a day. I'm just a sojourner.
Alrighty. So, this will be the People News. To the next one, y'all.